everyone, my name is Wilson, and this is a drama life video based on my father's journey all the way from China to Dallas, Texas. I will go in depth on when he first arrived here until now. Growing up, my dad had 3 brothers and 1 sister. He was the youngest out of the bunch. My father, Di Chang Su, was born in 1961. And during this time, China was going through an economic crisis, so throughout his childhood, he was very poor. I remember as a child, he would always tell me to be grateful for everything I have now, because back then, he would only get 1 cent every day to go get 1 piece of bread for breakfast before he headed to school. Let's fast forward a little bit. At the age of 14, my father attended a water polo academy and had to work very hard to become a professional water polo player. He was a professional water polo player until the age of 27. At the age of 27, he knew that in order to help his family to become more financially stable, he had to find a job that could help provide for them. During this time, my oldest uncle had already moved to the States, and he suggested that everyone in the family should move to Texas as well. The U.S. offered more economic opportunities for my family. Therefore, everyone from my family came one by one to Dallas, Texas until everybody arrived. From the point he stepped off the airplane, my dad had to learn how to drive in a week. Him and all his siblings pitched in money for an old car which they all shared. He had told me on the first day he was supposed to start working, he had gotten lost and did not know how to tell his friend that was familiar with the area where he was because he didn't know how to read or speak English. Later, by using hand gestures, he got a couple of teenagers who were about to enter a restaurant to help him speak to his friend. Finally, he got back home safe. My grandparents stayed up all night waiting for him because they were worried sick since my dad left around 10 a.m. but he was supposed to come back around 11. Instead, he came back at 2 in the morning. Anyways, he had got a job from my eldest uncle's restaurant in which he worked 11 hours a day, 6 days a week, and only earned $8.80 a month. Throughout these horrendous working hours, he would work so much that his ankles would swell up from standing and cooking all day. That didn't keep him from going to work though, because he knew that he still had his own family to bring over from China. Once my dad saved up enough money to go back to China, he traveled back to marry my mom so that he could get my mom and brother over here to the States. Finally, my brother and my mom arrived to the United States. And since my dad was already awaiting their arrival, he had rented a 1-bedroom apartment since he knew that they all just couldn't live with my uncle forever, or even in that little apartment that my uncle did have. They never really had much. They only had a couch and a table when they first started off. Honestly, all that mattered for my dad was that his wife and his son was finally together after a long period of time. Since my mom knew that my dad didn't make very much, and as may I remind you, he did make only $8.80, my mom had to find a job as well during this financially unstable time of their lives. My mom would have to drop my brother off from relative to relative since they couldn't afford a babysitter either. For years, they moved apartment to apartment, trying to find the cheapest apartment almost every month since they already had to be very frugal with their money because of how much my parents earned, which was around $1,500 together a month. Due to these living situations, my parents and my brother would be racially discriminated in the communities because of their ethnicity almost 9 times out of the 10 apartments they moved into. They were called chinks, told to leave, and many more targeted insults about their ethnicity. It was hard on them because they already had enough problems to deal with, and racism just added to all of the mess. Nonetheless, my family had to persevere and keep on working hard to hopefully one day improve the living conditions for their family overall. I mean, at the end of the day, that was the dream, the bigger picture. to come to America for a better life and hopefully succeed. Therefore, my mom and my dad worked the same job at the same restaurant for the next 5 years. Not once did they ever miss a day of work, because if they did, then that was less money that they would have earned for my brother and I. Because by then it was already around 2002, 2003, and I was born in 2001. Day after day after day, they still worked 11 hours a day, 66 hours a week, and only earned $880 a month. However, them being very conservative with their money allowed them to finally open a restaurant in 2006 called Made China Cafe. The investment to Made China became very prosperous, and it honestly made money that my mother and my father would have never imagined to make. And in all honesty, I don't think I can imagine what life would have been like without this restaurant. I mean, it gave me new clothes, not hand-me-down. It gave me food on the table every day, and I didn't ever have to feel like, I was gonna go sleep with an empty stomach. And it also paid for a lot of my school trips, school supplies, just my educational needs in general. And I owe a lot to this establishment, because it gave me a lot of things that growing up my brother never had. So as time went on, my family, worked and worked at this restaurant, and once again saved up money and saved up more and more money, and all that money I was saved up led to us being able to own a franchise called Share Tea, and it's basically boba drinks and stuff like that. It's actually been going very well for us, and without this restaurant we would not have this establishment as well. And this establishment, Share Tea, has brought us a lot of economic prosperity as well, and all the hours spent in the restaurant, spent just working 66 hours every week, non-stop, and all that sacrifice led to this result, and it has allowed them to be able to retire and know that they don't ever have to worry about if they're going to be able to pay the bills this month, or if they're going to be able to buy enough food for themselves and live on their own. Anyhow, thank you guys for allowing me to tell you about my dad's American dream, basically, and I hope it inspires you to work hard no matter what circumstances you're faced with.